morning, fellow Shannondellians. We have a comedian, two comedians on board. Should be a very interesting show. I heard some of the jokes, they're very good. He told me that these were the same jokes he told Grover Cleveland. So, everybody knows Stan?
Of course, he does.
So I'm going to turn it over to them. And
doesn't get anything?
what?
You said Stan. He said it. Oh, I'm sorry, I was just trying to protect you.
Right. And the performance is going to go on for about 2.5 hours. However, you can leave whenever you want. No one's going to say anything.
So can I.
So are we ready, men?
Larry, you didn't
We're ready.
introduce the other person. Introduce him.
He didn't.
I did.
No, you didn't.
Go at it.
No, he didn't.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
We're going to start with a cute little skit, just in case some of you have a problem with our natural language, our native language. My buddy Dave Plessett will add a language we should help set the flavor of this program. It begins, once upon a time, there was a most interesting American Indian family. The father, Geronimowitz, mother, Pogayenta, and a daughter, Shana Madel.
Amol is gewinn 3 Jahre. Der Vater, Geronimowitz, die Mutter, Pogayenta, and a Tochter, Shana Madel.
One day, Shana Madel came home and said to Pogayenta, "Mama, I want to get married."
One Tag ist Shana Madel come home and besucht zu Pogayenta. Mama, ich will Cassera haben.
"Good," said Pogayenta, "it's about time. Soon you would be an old maid, you're already 16. So who's going to be the bridegroom?
So, said Pogayenta, sie schön Zeit. Du bist jetzt ein alter Mann, schon 16 Jahre alt. Nur wer ist die Woche?
To which Shana Madel replied, "Oh, Mama, have I caught a bridegroom, tall and husky, so handsome, so strong."
Antwort Shana Madel. Oh, Mama, hab ich geschafft, ein Woche. Hab ich Halter schon, als schön, als stark.
And what is his name?
Und was ist sein Name?
He is called Sitting Bovan.
Hey, sitzt in Boban.
And how does he make a living?
Und was macht Leben?
He is involved in a big business.
Ist vermischt. In ein großes Geschäft.
Mama, he has real class, he's rich, and his father is a big shot in the Blackfoot tribe.
Hat große Jichas. Und ist ungestoppt. Und sein Vater ist ein ganzer Macher über alle Schwarzfuß und Menschen.
Good, said Pogayenta. I'll make a big wedding. Oh my God.
So Pogayenta, oh gut, wir wollen machen ein großes Essen. Wer ist mehr?
What's the matter, Mama?
Was ist der mehr?
Boy, do I have trouble.
Wir haben sowas.
What kind of trouble, Mama?
Was war sowas?
Ah, she said when he turned the page. canopy is not big enough to hold everybody who is invited to the wedding. The Schwarzbus and their whole family.
Die Tipi ist nicht groß genug zu halten alle Kassener Gäste. Alle Schwarzwurst und die ganze Mischproche.
Then Pocahontas screamed to her husband, Geronimowitz, get off your rear end and go out and catch me a large buffalo.
Schrie Pocahontas zu der Mann, Geronimowitz. Steh auf dein Tops. Steh away and schieß mir a großer Buffalo.
And the husband asked, why do you need a large buffalo?
Well, was her to a großer Buffalo?
To which his wife explained, your daughter is getting married. Many people will be coming to the wedding. With the buffalo meat, I can make a big brisket. And with the skin, you can make the teepee bigger. So then I can invite the entire world to the wedding.
Und die Weib es gesucht, mit dem Buffalo Fleisch, ich kann machen ein guter gedankter Buffalo Brisket. Und mit dem Pelz kann die machen die Tipi größer und kann mehr einladen, die Land ganz Welt zu sein Kaserne.
So away went the husband to hunt a big buffalo.
Geronimowitz ist gegangen.
He's away 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and it does not come back.
Took it weg. 1 day, 2 Tage, 3 Tage, and is noch nicht zurückgekommen.
A week later, the husband comes home empty-handed.
Eine Woche später kommt der Geronimowitz heimgekommen mit nicht seiner Hand.
Schlemiel, screams Pocahontas, where is my buffalo?
Schlemiel, wo ist mein Buffalo? Says Pocahontas.
You and your buffalo brisket the husband size. You're a nutcase.
Du und dein Buffalo Brisket. Du bist ein Meshuggah.
What do you mean by crazy, she asked.
Was meint Meshuggah?
The first day out, I saw a big buffalo, but it was not good enough for your brisket, not big enough to enlarge the teepee.
Der erste Tag hab ich gesehen ein Buffalo, aber ist gewesen, geht genug für dein Brisket, nur größer genug für dein Tipi.
The second day out, I saw another. It was big enough, but it had terrible skin. This was one ugly buffalo.
Der zweite Tag hab ich gesehen ein anderer Buffalo, größer genug, oder just schrecklich Pelz. Und mir ist kein grüner Buffalo.
The day later, did I find a buffalo, beautiful, meaty, big.
Und Tag später hab ich gefahren auf Buffalo Schein, schmalzedicker, groß.
So where is that buffalo, the wife asked.
Nu, this is a buffalo?
I was about to kill the beautiful buffalo, but when I looked into my satchel for my tomahawk, you know what?
Ich hab gegangen, die schulterten die scheine Buffalo. Und wenn ich hab gesucht in mein Sacko, du weißt was?
What? His wife demanded.
Ich hab genommen mit mir die milchige
You gave me the tomahawk that's only good for dairy products. It has been said that humor is what permitted our long-beleaguered people to exist. You have to go no further back than the end of World War II. The period which followed was known as the golden era of comedy. Now, I didn't get all my jokes from this book because there are 308 pages. You'd have to spend the afternoon here. But I knew a few myself. I got a few from here. And the wonderful thing about our comedy is we manage to laugh at everything. Whatever tsura, whatever problem we have had, we can laugh at it. Now, I'm going to tell you a joke, one of my favorites. You'll have to forgive my Yiddish. I don't speak it very well, and most of you don't hear it very well. So we should make a good combination. In the days of my youth, if you went to a Jewish cemetery, most of which were Orthodox, you would find a couple of men dressed in black with a head, with a skull cap, and with their strings hanging down, and with a tallis, and carrying a little black book. They would come to anybody who arrived at the cemetery and ask them in Yiddish if they understood what to say when they went to the graveside. 3 brothers arrive and they make a deal with this guy to take them to their father's grave on the anniversary of his death. When they arrive there, the guy with the book says, "Keep the Land dorten, 3 Siedel." There came here 3 sons. Emil is, what's his name? What is your name? Moish. His name is Moish. He's a fine name. What do you do? What kennst du for a living? What do you do for a living? I'm a doctor. As a physician, yes, keep that on you, fine. And the second Siedel, my name is Peter. That woman is Peter, and what has to get for a living? I'm a lawyer. Yeah, this a lawyer, a fine man, a fine employment. He says, my name is Lionel, and what has to get for a living? I am a talent scout. A talent scout? Some enchanted If I tell some you've heard before, I enjoy it, you should do. The guy goes to a doctor and he has an unusual but not serious condition that the doctor tells him can be cured by mother's milk. The guy says, where do we get mother's milk? He said, there are women known as wet nurses. Even though they're not pregnant, they're able to lactate, and they're available. So he makes an appointment, the guy goes to the house, the wet nurse opens the door, sits down, she's very buxom, takes off her blouse and her bra, and tells him to suckle, which he does. Not too long later, accustomed as she was to having only infants, she gets a little aroused and says to him, can I get you something else? He says, you got maybe a cookie? Mrs. Cohen has never been to a dentist her entire life out of fear of pain. But her daughter makes an appointment for her, so she has to go. She sits down in the exam chair. When the dentist arrives next to her, she reaches under the bottom of his medical jacket and says, we're not going to hurt each other, are we? There's a matching male story, one of my favorites. Mr. Goldberg also has never been to a dentist his entire life, but his grandson insists that since he mentioned he has a dental problem, that he get examined. So Grandpapa arrives at the dental office, gets a thorough exam, after which the dentist says to him, you have a lot of work. Your mouth's in terrible shape. It will take me a long time, months, cost you a great deal. The guy says to him, look, doctor, money I have, time I got, pain I can't stand. Is it going to hide? It ain't going to hide. Then he says to him, how do I know? pain is a relative thing. Some people can get pain and that doesn't mind them at all. Others think it's torture. He said, well, I can't stand the pain. He said, well, look, do you know Plum the furrier? Yeah, we're in the same synagogue. He said, well, I just did his mouth. It took 18 months. Well, ask him. So he goes down to Plum and he says, Plum, tell me what happened with the dentist. He said, oh, they didn't know. Plum said, sit down. He says, last week I went out on the ocean to do deep sea fishing. He said, Plum, I came to ask you about the pain. I said, it was a gorgeous day. The sea was like a mirror. The sun was so bright. So we sat in 12 with the big lines, and all of a sudden, Plum, he says, I can't stand pain. Tell me the story. He said, a second. Suddenly, the ocean got rough. The boat is bouncing around like a cork in the water. Out from under the boat came the anchor, hooked on by me, the crotch. For the first time in 18 months, didn't hurt by me the teeth. My father used to tell this quickly. Two men are sitting in a room and one says to the other, close the window, it's cold outside. Did you hear me? Close the window, it's cold outside. He said, am I going to have to ask you again? Close the window, it's cold outside. The other guy slams the window shut and says, now it's warm outside. 3 Russian citizens, a Pole, a Czech, and a Jew, were accused of spying and were sentenced to death. Each one was granted one final wish. I want my ashes scattered over the grave of Pilsudski, said the Pole. I want my ashes scattered over the grave of Masaryk, said the Czech. And I, said the Jew, want my ashes scattered over the grave of Comrade Kosygin. The guy says, that's impossible. Kosygin isn't dead yet. The Jew says, I'll wait. A Jewish tailor walks by a czar's police inspector on the street. The inspector is furious because he doesn't remove his hat, as he is required to do in the presence of a police inspector. So Jew, he cries out, what do you mean by this insolence? Where are you from? From Minsk, replies the Jew. And what about your hat? Also from Minsk. I don't go down the tube, but that's all right. This one is very philosophical in a way. Moses Montefiore, the great 19th century Jewish philanthropist, once found himself seated at a dinner party with an anti-Semitic nobleman. I have just returned from Japan, the nobleman was saying, and it's a most unusual country. Did you know that it has neither pigs nor Jews? In that case, responded Montefiore, you and I should go there together so we'll have a sample of each. A young Talmud student who left for Poland for America returns several years later to visit his family. But where is your beard, Zindel? His mother asks. Mama, in America, not everybody wears a beard. But at least you keep the Sabbath? Mama, business is business. In America, people work on the Sabbath. But kosher food you'll still eat? Mama, it's very difficult to find kosher meals in America. His mother hesitates for a minute, then in a hoarse whisper, she says, Lord Shlomi, tell me one thing. Are you still circumcised? the days of the old kosher restaurants, how many of you remember them? Okay, well, not, I'll remind you. The waiter would stand off to the side, out of view, after he served you, but available at a gesture. This Friday night, a guy comes in and sits down. He's a traveling salesman, and this is his first night back, and he is hurried over to get good Jewish meal. He quickly orders a bowl of chicken soup, which the waiter delivers with a flourish, and returns to his post. A few minutes later, the guy motions the waiter over, says to him, "Try the soup." "What's wrong with the soup?" "Try the soup." He said, "Sir, you've been coming here for years. You have the same chicken soup every Friday night. What's wrong with the soup?" He said, "Try the soup." The waiter says, "And where's the spoon?" The guy says, "Aha." Another guy went to the Colonial Kosher restaurant, and every visit he had a whole cooked fish. One night he starts to carve the fish, and he feels the fish's eyes looking at him. He can't bring the knife into position. After 3 weeks of this, at the Colonial, he decides to go across the street to the King Kosher restaurant. At the King, he orders the same kind of meal, a whole cooked fish, which they bring to him. He looks down, fish looks back. He freezes. He tries to cut the fish, looks fish up and says to him, "What's the matter, you're not eating at the Colonial anymore?" Believe it or not, that joke was told on a radio program. Remember radio? By 3 guys, and the program was called "Can You Top This?" And the comedians sat and traded jokes to see who had the funniest. That was one of them. This is perhaps my favorite kosher restaurant joke. Thinking back, waiters in those days all dressed the same. Schmutzig black shoes, unkempt tuxedo pants with a satin stripe, a stained white shirt with a black bow tie. They all carried a somewhat clean white towel over their arm. And although they gave you a menu, they always stood behind you and told you what you should order. It's true. As the years went on, before the pandemic, these Jewish restaurants began to close and to lose all these classic waiters, all of whom, of course, could speak fluent Yiddish for the benefit of their patrons. There was a fellow, a bachelor, who went to the same Jewish restaurant every Friday night. So he and the owner, Manny, became close friends. They often discussed Manny's waiter problems. He told Manny one night, "I'm leaving for a long sales trip. I hope you can come up with a solution to your labor problems." 3 weeks later, he returned and quickly headed for this restaurant. He sat down, buried his head in the menu, and was offered him by a white-shirted arm a menu. At the same time, a Yiddish voice suggested he have the vegetable soup, a nice piece of gefilte fish, the roast chicken, sponge cake, and tea, all delivered in perfect Yiddish. He folded the menu, turned it to the waiter with a smile, but froze when he found the waiter was Chinese. He looked around the restaurant. Every waiter was Chinese, and all of them speaking fluent Yiddish. He hurried over to the cashier where Manny was and said, "Manny, you're brilliant." He said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You solved your waiter problem. You're majestic." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You got Chinese and you taught them Yiddish." And Manny says, "Shh, they think they're learning English." cop stopped the guy on 95, and the guy said, "Officer, I never even got a parking ticket." He said, "I'm not giving you a ticket." He said, "Why did you stop me?" He said, "I thought you ought to know you left your wife at the coffee shop." And the guy says, "Thank God, I thought I lost my hearing." Good stuff. I do like it. Okay, two elderly Jewish ladies had gone to the races. Went to the racetrack for the first time. But they lost every race. And one says to the other as they leave, "We lost, big deal. What does it mean? What did we do with a horse?" We're in Miami. Husband and wife are waiting for the bus. And he says to her, "Now listen to me. Don't open up your mouth. You're going to be on the bus with some fine people. Don't show how dumb you are. Keep your mouth shut." She gets on the bus with him. They can't sit together. She's this way with a group of fine-looking ladies. And he's sitting and he hears her say, "Beethoven? Oh, Beethoven, I saw him with the number 5 bus to Miami Beach last week." The husband can't wait to get there. "Did I tell you not to open up our mouth, dope? What did you say about Beethoven on the number 5 bus to Miami Beach? Everybody knows the number 5 bus doesn't go to Miami." Okay, 1 second. By the way, it's a wonderful book. It's very heavy, and it has, I don't know how many jokes. Most of them are great. And this is one of them. It's so typical. An elderly Jewish man is on a train. There are very few people on the car, but over the aisle next to him is a young college student who's trying to study up from a textbook. But the old man keeps, "Oi, am I thirsty? Oi, am I thirsty?" This goes on. Finally, the young kid gets up, goes to the end of the car, gets a glass of water, brings it back, the guy drinks it. The kid sits down to read and he hears, "Oi, was I thirsty?" Yeah. I don't know another train joke. Rabbis are not free from humor. A young rabbi went to a convention of rabbis. He finds a senior rabbi, and he says to him, "I wonder if you could help me with an unusual problem." The senior says, "What is it, son?" He said, "I can't get rid of the mice in my synagogue. We've tried everything, and they're back." The senior rabbi says to him, "Here's what you do. You order some very small yarmulkes and very small talisim. The first time you see a mouse, you put a yarmulke on him, put the talis around him, bar mitzvah him. You'll never see him." The guy in a conservative synagogue comes up to his rabbi and says, "Rabbi, my dog will be 13 next month, and I would like to have him bar mitzvah." The rabbi says, "Excuse me." He said, I guess I offended you." "Of course you offended me. The idea of bar mitzvahing a dog doesn't strike you as being offensive?" He said, "Well, do you have any advice?" The rabbi says, "Sure. Take the dog down to the Reform Temple. Maybe they'll do it." So the guy says, "You know, Rabbi, I'm considering giving a substantial amount of money in honor of my dog's bar mitzvah. I was thinking about $25,000. And the rabbi says to him, "Why didn't you tell me the dog was Jewish?" rabbi goes to Chicago to a convention, goes up to his hotel room, locks the door, turns around, and in his bed is a beautiful young lady. He runs over to the end table, grabs the phone, and calls his congregation president and says to him, "Are you crazy? What did you do here? What did you wanted to give me a present? This is a present for a rabbi?" And the girl hears this, gets up and starts to leave. The rabbi puts his hand over the phone and says, "Who's talking to you?" Another rabbi was a golfer. And on Rosh Hashanah, he goes out after services to his golf course, and he gets a hole-in-one. One of his members is watching and looks up and says to God, "How could you do such a thing? He's a rabbi. He went out to play golf on the holiest of days, and you let him hit a hole-in-one," and the voice comes down and says, "Who's he going to tell?" Two guys are on a plane going to Honolulu. Terrible argument. How do you pronounce it? Hawaii or Hawaii? So they bet each other $100. They arrive in Honolulu at the airport. They see a guy in a very colored shirt. And they walk up to him and they say to him, "We had an argument. How do you pronounce it?" The guy says, "Hawaii." They said, "Thank you." And he says, "You're welcome." Another very old and kind of frail Jewish gentleman gets on a plane in Texas, sits down, and suddenly through the door comes his seat companion, a Texan who's 6'8", 350 pounds. When he sits down, he's part of it is the little guy's seat, who is over in the corner. The plane takes off. Very rough weather. The little guy upchucks. Where? On the Texan. So when he wakes up, he'll kill me. Finally, the stewardess says, "Prepare for landing." The Texan wakes, looks at himself, and the little guy says to him, "You feel better now?" You can be clever. There's a guy at 15th and Chestnut Street with a cane, obviously. Can't see very well. He's tapping. The young man comes up to him and says, "Can I help you, sir?" The guy says, "Well, I am here in Philadelphia. I don't come here often, but I'm here and I'm going to the doctor." He said, "Well, where is your doctor?" He says, "He's 15th and Chester." He said, "Oh, I'll be very happy to take you over." "Oh, thank you, such a fine young man." He takes him. He said, "What's your doctor's address?" He says, 1538. He said, "We're right there now. Is there anything else I can do for you?" And the old man said, "Well, what could you do for me? You did so much already. Could you do anything else?" And the young man says to him, "You might want to drop the Jewish accent. You're black." A couple of our friends or ladies are sitting in Rittenhouse Square, and a cop walks by on patrol, and one of the women runs out and says, "Officer, officer, there's a flasher in the park." So the cop says, "Tell me about it." So he came out from behind the bushes, and the three of us are sitting on a bench, and he opened up his raincoat. He was wearing nothing. My friends had a stroke. I wouldn't touch it, of course. You've seen the recent cartoon of the husband and wife, and he says, "She's been telling me what to say for 30 years, and she says 31. That's enough. Thank you for your time and your